Hey, welcome to Let's Unravel, and I'm your friend Christina. Thanks for stopping by, whether you're a new listener or a friend of the podcast. I just wanted to say welcome. So it's official. We have our very first guest appearance this week on Let's Unravel. And our special guest appearance, I would say, needs no introduction, but did I write an introduction? Absolutely. So she is a registered nurse, aka the best NICU nurse in Connecticut. She's a coffee and matcha enthusiast, and in my personal opinion, the best global transportation guide there is. And she just so happens to be my cousin. Am I biased? Absolutely. So please welcome Katie Bauer.
Hello, everyone. So excited to be here.
So is this your first podcast?
This is my first podcast. I'm kind of nervous.
I'm nervous every week. So your first podcast.
Yes. I'm enjoying my experience so far.
That's awesome. You know, we have a whole lighting setup. Were you expecting what this setup was going to be?
I was not expecting this. This is like really nice. I was looking at myself in the camera earlier and I was like, oh, I look good. The lighting is good.
I really impressed her, guys. I have a monitor. You can't see it. It's out of frame. But we try to be very professional here at Let's Unravel. Okay, so people call me out all the time. And by people, my sister. She calls me out all the time. She goes, why do you keep saying we? I'm like, because I don't want to say me. Anyways, so do you have a hot take for us this week?
Yes, my hot take for the week is cereal a soup.
I don't know how you come up with these things. All right, guys, tell us your thoughts in the comments below. There will be a poll on Spotify. The way to get to the poll on Spotify is if you click this episode, you scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes. There's a beautiful poll. You will see yay or nay for is cereal
a soup.
You tell us. We'll let you know our thoughts at the end of this episode. So to jump into our favorite topic here at Let's Unravel, win of the week. So typically I have a win of the week, whether it's for the show or maybe it's me personally. But this week, I think it'd be exciting to know. Katie, do you have a win of the week?
I do have a win of the week, Christina. My win of the week is, okay, little background is that I've always loved jewelry and I've loved like real jewelry.
Yes.
And no one in our family, well, our grandmother doesn't have any real jewelry. So I'm like, what's going to get passed down to me, you know?
That's a shame.
Yeah. So I bought myself a gold bracelet. We have a family bracelet that's a button bracelet. And so it's that bracelet in gold.
Now, for any family members that are listening and or watching, I'm sad to say I'm not wearing my family bracelet.
This girl.
But she's represented because it's gold and ours are usually silver. So it's another notch up. So thank you for giving us our win of the week, even though her presence here is also a win of the week just for the podcast.
Thank you.
Super exciting. Before we jump into our topic of the week, don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you might be listening. And if you're listening on YouTube or Spotify, you can comment on this episode. So if you want to give us your hot take on if
cereal is a soup,
you're going to drop a comment down below. Make sure you like and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, and all your comments go a very far way because don't forget, make sure you are subscribing wherever you might be listening. So without any further ado, let's jump into our topic of the week. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about all about life, career, and dreams in your 20s, along with some personal favorites and or more hot takes because those are my favorite. So let's unravel life with Katie Bauer. This is your first podcast. Very exciting. This is my first interview style podcast. So there's a lot of firsts going on here. And it's our first time being in our 20s. So there it is.
A lot of firsts.
It's true. So for this episode, I'm going to ask you some questions about what life is like in your 20s. So a question that I always like to ask people in their 20s that I think is interesting is, so how old are you?
I am 26.
Perfect age, because you're right in the middle of your 20s. Okay, this is an even better example. Have you seen that trend where people will sit down and have coffee with their younger self? Okay, so you are 26 right now, and let's say you sit down to have a cup of coffee with your 20-year-old self. What are you saying?
That is a great question. I think that if I could sit down with my 20-year-old self, I would tell her that her worth is more than what other people think of her. You know, like when you think that you've like invented something
all the time.
Yeah. And then you find out like, oh, like it's been around for a long time. One of them is that this quote just came to me. I'd love to coin this phrase like you did last week when you showed the example of Michael Scott and the Wayne Gretzky quote. This quote just came to me, and it's that we accept the love that we think we deserve. Found out later it's actually from The Perks of a Wildflower. I think that's what it's called.
Yes, but in this episode, I'm going to put Katie Bauer. So check that out.
So it's really my quote. But that's so true because I think that like in my early 20s, I struggled so much with loving myself and taking the opinions of what other people said about me or what I just assumed that they thought about me. Maybe they didn't even say it. And so I just accepted love from myself and from other people that was less than what I deserved. And now that I'm 26, I'm just realizing that my love isn't from them. And it's changed my life. I feel like I wish I could go to my 20-year-old self and give her a hug and be like, you are so worth it. And that don't listen to what other people say about you and don't listen to what your mind is telling you about yourself because you are worth so much.
I wish I could snap. I'd be snapping all over. I think one of the biggest things that always happened to me is people would just project their perception of who I am. I talked about in Concealed Confidence. People just assumed I was confident. And it wasn't until I started to talk to like friends and I'm like, I am nervous and anxious all the time. And even when I said like my spirit animal is a shaking chihuahua, which it's so funny because I feel like it's slowly changing where I'm not as like nervous all the time, but it goes back to that thing like loving and accepting yourself because I can't say that was something like I always did.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the times you compare yourself to people and like you compare yourself to what they post on Instagram and like things that you say. And then when you are vulnerable with them and then they're vulnerable back, if they are, then you're like, oh, okay, your life isn't perfect. And like I can be easier on myself.
So do you follow Mel Robbins at all? So Mel Robbins has this really cool thing where she'd said, if you started to look at your social media page as a time capsule for you, she goes, your perception on it totally changes. And all of a sudden I started to realize it. I'm like, that's true because the last couple of years I've looked at my Instagram page. If you look on my Instagram page, I like go through spurts of posting. And then within the last like 5-ish years, it's like one post a year. And I'm like, it's so sad because now I look back and I'm like, I wish I posted more things for me, not even for other people. Like I could care less if someone's like, what did Christina do this week? Because I'm like, I know what I do. I'm very cool. Anyways.
I think that a few years ago, I had made like a Finsta, which is fake Instagram for non-Gen Z millennials. I made a Finsta and I was like, okay, like I'm just putting myself on here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to post a picture a day for the whole year. I made it like 6 months because I'm really bad at following through on things. But I just like looked back on it recently. Like I relogged into it and I was like, wow, like I did some cool stuff, or at least like I made myself think I did some cool stuff. And I was like, maybe I should bring this back because it really is like a digital diary of like everything that you did. And I was like, oh, I forgot I did that. Oh, I forgot I went this place. I forgot I hung out with these people. Like, so it was cool to have those pictures because my Instagram is also like once every 6 months I post something.
Right. No, absolutely. Or it's always like people have so gotten into my head where they're like, is it grid worthy? I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what generation I'm from because like I'm on the cusp between millennial and Gen Z. You tell me I'm Gen Z all the time. I act like a millennial though. I have millennial siblings. This is why I wish I was cool like Gen Z.
Well, I am Gen Z, so that's why I bring you down with me.
Yes, she grounds me to my Gen Z roots.
There is debate of like when the Gen Z millennial starts because I've heard like 1996 and down is, you know, to whatever it starts, but is millennial. But then I've also heard like 98. So I don't know.
You barely make
barely. Yeah, I don't. I'm a 99. But, you know, I've just accepted that I'm a Gen Z that grew up with millennial brothers. And so I have millennial traits too.
When you call your brothers millennials, it sounds like they're so much older than they are. One of her brothers is a year older than me. Her other brother is like 9 months younger than me. They're not 10 years older, I promise.
We're all a year and a half apart. So
your poor mother. Shout out to you.
We love you, Mom.
Love you, Auntie. All right, to go through more questions of life in your 20s. What is one misconception about your 20s that like culture, TV shows, movies told you would be like happening in your 20s? And either it was a lie or it could be good or bad, whatever you decide to roll with.
I think a misconception for me was that I was going to go to college. I couldn't date until I was 18. And so I was going to go to college. I was going to find a boyfriend, graduate at 21, 22, get married at like 22, 23, have kids by 24. And just like live my life. Because I feel like, I don't know what shows I was watching, but it was always like, you find the love of your life at college. And that was so true for like so many of my friends, but not true for me. And that was something that on my 22nd birthday, I sat down to reflect and I was like, wow, like I thought I was going to be married.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Right.
So I feel like that was such a misconception was like, especially being in a culture that people get married married young, and I went to a college that was always ring by spring.
Yes.
And there was no ring by spring.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. I honestly am loving the place that I'm at right now, and I couldn't imagine going through this journey any different way. Although I'd love, who wouldn't want a husband?
Right.
But also I am so grateful that I didn't rush into anything.
Right.
And going back to what I said earlier is that I wasn't in a place to love someone when I didn't love myself.
Right.
And now I feel like I'm at that place where I do love myself and I would be ready for a relationship.
You heard it here, folks. Drop comments or slide into those DMs.
Please do.
No, I think that's awesome because, I think about my early 20s. Oh my God. If I went by Christina, 18-year-old Christina's timeline, I'm pretty sure I should have been on my first kid by now or something. But if I had known this was going to be my life at 18, I would have been cut the script, massive rewrite, moving on. But it's one of those things that, oh God, I'm going to quote my mom, the joy is in the journey. But it's true. There's just so many things where it's my favorite is even I think about that show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Did you watch that with Will Smith?
Favorite show.
But in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, not the remake, he has a new date every single episode. So and he was dating by high school, or he was in high school dating all the time. And I remember thinking, oh, when I get to high school, I'm I'm gonna be dating all the time. It was a dry spell, bad. And then it's so funny because getting into your early 20s, and then you watch all those sitcoms like Friends. Even when you watch Friends and you see Jennifer Aniston, which when we were at Thanksgiving, one of our cousins actually had said, she had pulled the line from social media saying you know how in the first season of Friends, they're just 25. So technically you're in your first or second season of Friends.
Yeah. I remember you saying that on your podcast a few weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I am. My first season of Friends.
I think the best fashion was in the first 2 or 3 seasons. I really liked it.
Honestly, underrated is Monica's fashion.
Yes.
Everyone talks about Rachel, but they're sleeping on Monica.
Yes, it's true. I love Monica's looks. I was actually going to say, I think my favorite is there's a photo of them doing the football game for Thanksgiving. And I think I really like Rachel's outfit because she's wearing a green shirt and a backwards hat. But I also love Monica's look because she's doing the sweatpants and just a basic sweatshirt. I'm going to pull a picture and try to put it somewhere on the screen. We've talked about so many cool things about just life in your 20s and just the misconceptions. And then even when you were touching on the learning how to love yourself. So would you say so far, because you're in your mid-20s, would you say there's been 1 year in your 20s that has been the most foundational or the most pivotal in all your 20s so far?
I would say my 22nd year of life, feeling 22, like Taylor Swift.
Tay-Tay, there's always a call out to you.
Yes, we love you, Taylor Swift. Like I said before, I sat down and I was like, wow, I'm not married. But my 22nd year of life is when I became a nurse and I got my first big girl job, if you could say that. And I was on that journey of learning how to love myself. And I felt like I was in such a good place there. So my 22nd year, I loved being 22. All the other years, I was just getting old now. And I know I'm young, but I was now I'm in my mid 20s and I know I'm still young and I know I'm going to look back. My mom's you're going to look back in 20 years and be I was so young. But after 22, I was now I'm just have one foot in the grave.
I'm so sorry to anybody that's older than
Well, I'm 26 now and I'm okay. Now I'm realizing wow, 22 is so young. And even 25, I was oh yeah, I'm 26 now. So I guess that was young.
That's so fun. I like how your pivotal year was so early in your 20s. Mine took halfway through. I remember turning 25 and to all the dreamers out there, you could feel my pain. I told myself, Christina, this was 16-year-old Christina. So she had 9 years. She's you'll make your first million by the time you're 25. I was not a millionaire by 25, let's just say. But I got my first big girl job. But it was so cool. I felt by the time I turned 25, things just started to click. Things that had never made sense just started to make sense. Do I have a great example? No. I think it just goes back to that thing, your frontal lobe's not fully developed. And all of a sudden, it's you wake up one day and you're my God, did I just solve the world's problems overnight? I think so.
I was just going to ask you if you felt different that your frontal lobe had fully formed.
Oh, yeah. I also think, not that I was a cautious person, but I could always like see ahead. Like the best way I could describe it is like playing a game, like how people are like, I play checkers and it's like my mind operates like chess, where it's like, oh, if I do this, I could see the ripple effect all the way down like 5 times. And then it wasn't until I was like working in a retail store and I was a trainer and a supervisor that I was like, oh, people don't think this way. It's actually pretty like unique. Because if I asked the college age, like 18, 19, and I'd say, so you're going to do this, whatever it was, you're going to do this. And how do you think that's going to impact everything around it? And they're like, it impacts things around it? I was like, yes, it does. And so by the time I hit 25, it was almost like I could see 5 steps ahead already, but now I saw 15. And it was like, oh my gosh. Because even like when you talk about love, and that was something like I think about too, is that there was like the TikTok that I had referenced in one of my episodes about like a guy, he should be nice. That's the bare minimum. But at 22, you don't think that way. And it's like, oh, or maybe, well, yes, you were thinking already that way. I'm sorry. You're so advanced. But it was just one of those things. Like I remember people saying to me, like, this guy, he's a nice guy. Why isn't it working for you? And it wasn't until like stopping and looking and realizing like, I want certain things for my life, and them being nice, like awesome, like it doesn't do anything to project me forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like going back to the nice guy thing, like you can so easily get sucked back into a place that you were. Like me in college, I'm so happy that I'm out of college, loved college, and I'll go back and I'll reminisce of the time, but it really wasn't like a great time.
Yeah.
Like relationships, and I guess you like find yourself, but I feel like you can get so easily sucked back into that time where you're like, okay, like you meet a guy and you're like, oh, he's nice. And then I'm like, wait, no, like I deserve way more than a guy that's just nice. But all of my past experiences were like, were they even nice?
Right. And it's just so funny because even like at 22, I had this experience where, or I might have been a little bit younger, but it was just like, I didn't even realize I had become like trauma bonded to somebody until all of a sudden I was talking to you and I'm like, this person says like every day they try not to fall in love with me. And you're like, that's not normal. We'll dive deep into that on another episode. But there were so many unhealthy boundaries. And it was funny because if you asked me if I loved this person, I would say, oh, like I love them. And it wasn't until I think almost like a year or so after being removed from that environment, we worked together and everything, that I realized like, wow, this was like really unhealthy. And it was all because of like, they built me up just so they could tear me down. And then I was like tethered to them.
Yeah. I've had similar experiences like that too. And I remember that it was 2020. And so like I was walking a lot, and I had been talking to this guy from college that was definitely a narcissist, like when I look back on it. And I saw on TikTok that a girl was writing like letters to her future husband.
Oh.
And so I'm talking to this guy, and I go to Target, buy a notebook, and start filling it with all these letters, which was crazy because I was like, can't wait to meet you. I don't know who you are, as I'm still talking to this guy.
Right.
Because I just knew that like he wasn't the one I was going to end up with. And it took me like a while to find out like everything that he did and understand like who he was as a person.
Right.
But I just knew that I deserved so much more.
Absolutely. It's funny because it's even like last week's episode when I was talking about mentors and talking about how you can have people that are mentors, and then you can have people, I call them the other guys, because it's like they're not your mentors, but they can still give you good wisdom. And then you have like your trainers. But you come across people in your life where it's like, not that you don't value what they say, but it's almost like you wouldn't expect them to say something that would kind of like hit you or just kind of put to words exactly what you're feeling. I remember there would be times where I'd get like sideswiped by someone saying like, it's great to have someone that cares about you or really values what you say. And then it's like, oh, like, I don't think I've ever heard someone in my orbit say that. That was a reference. People have told me that before. So, you know, not that there's not more topics and conversations we can dive deep into in our 20s, but I also think what's so unique about your 20s is it's a time to build out your career too. You think back to like multiple decades ago, like I think about our grandma, and it's like when she was in her early 20s, it wasn't about having a career. It was about getting married, having kids, like building a family. And so it's kind of even unique that it's like we're at this point in our lives where it's like we get to have careers and you're building that out. And so like I said in her introduction, she's a nurse. So, and not only is she a nurse, she's a NICU nurse. So my biggest question is, how did you decide like that was how you were going to niche down your career, was I'm going to be a NICU nurse?
Yeah, so it started when I was in middle school. Our grandma had breast cancer, and I remember going into the hospital, and it was the nurses that took such good care of her. Yeah. And it was the nurses that my mom would come home, and I'm sure your mom too, and would be like, oh, this nurse took such great care of her. This nurse caught this nurse suggested this, and she got such good care from good nurses.
Yes.
And they were the ones that showed the compassion and love. And the doctors, like I feel like everyone remembers the doctor's name because they're a doctor.
Right, exactly.
But it was the nurses that we might not remember their name, but you remembered what they did for you. And so when I was in middle school, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a nurse. And I was like, I'm going to be like with a nursing home, like with the old people. My dad was like, okay, come with me. Like I go to the nursing home and I like visit the nursing home. You can come with me. And I was like, yeah, no. I don't like this. I actually love the baby. And so a friend of mine ended up having a baby that she knew might pass away. And so the baby had passed away a couple hours after life. And my mom came home and she said that the nurse said to her, to my friend, she said, you love your baby so much and all your baby has ever known love. You are such a good mom. And my mom came home and she was like, and that's what you're going to be. And that's who you're going to be. That's the kind of nurse you're going to be.
Wow.
And I like could feel it. And so when I go around work and I experience the things that I experience, I've been able to encourage the moms and say that. I actually was able to say that exact same phrase to a mom before. And I could feel like, okay, yeah, like this is what I knew I wanted to do since I was young. And
that's awesome.
Now here I am.
And it's so wild because like we'll get coffee, we'll catch up and you'll tell me some of the stories and just the impact that you have on these parents. And honestly, if you think about that and the perception of those people, especially those mothers, it could be like the worst days of their life. And to have such like a beacon of hope and light there, that's incredible. I don't know if I ever really knew the fullness of that backstory. I love that.
Yeah. I would say that it's so interesting because I see like so many different kinds of babies where I see babies that are there for 6 hours and then babies that I've had for 8 months. I feel like you're able to encourage the mom whether they're there for 6 hours or 8 months because it's still the worst days of their life. Their baby's still in the hospital. And so I try not to diminish and remember that like if I didn't have this experience and I didn't know how many things could go wrong, I would also think this was the worst day of my life. And it is the worst day of their life.
It's so interesting because I remember at one point in time, we had a family friend and when she was pregnant with her daughter, she was like a NICU baby. And I remember her saying like, it's so hard. It's this and that. I feel like 9 out of 10 times when I'm in a hospital and having to be in hospitals, whether for my grandma or other family members, and the nurses, they're phenomenal. Like even when my sister gave birth to her first child, and I remember like my mom was raving, like the nurses were phenomenal. Like they're so supportive. There's such a heart to it because not everyone could be a nurse. The funniest thing is my grandma on my dad's side, so we are related from my mom's side. My grandma on my dad's side, she was a nurse. And so when she had passed away, all of a sudden there was just like, I think like 2 or 3 older women. They were all like dressed up in these like old school nursing outfits. They came, they brought candles and did like this whole lighting ceremony. They just like started singing and doing all this stuff. And they're like, it's time to rest. It's your final watch. And I remember being like, wow, this is wild. Like they apparently read about it in the newspaper and they just showed up. And then you told me what the backstory of it was.
Yeah, I don't know if I think every nursing ceremony does this. At least when I had my nursing pinning ceremony, we walked down the center aisle holding candles.
Wild. And it was so funny because they brought candles, they did the whole lighting. And I remember thinking like, what is the significance? Because obviously, no, there's a significance to it, but it wasn't until you gave me the context of it. And I'm like, that is such a cool full circle thing. And I'm like, I don't think anybody does that in any other industry. Now, doctors, if you know something I don't know, let us know. Anyways, now on a more lighthearted question, what TV show best describes nurses as a whole?
It's not Grey's Anatomy, I'm going to tell you that much. No. When I was like younger, before I got into nursing, I was like, Grey's Anatomy, it's going to be scandalous. Like things are going to, no, it's really not. I'm sure that there are. The Pit. I don't know if you've watched it.
I've heard of it.
So good. It's about ER nursing, but they did have like a little NICU thing in there. And I was like, yeah, I thought they did an amazing job. It is a lot of like the doctors, but the medical stuff, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the most realistic. Although I've never watched it. So if you have, comment below.
Wait, you never watched the Pit?
No. I've never watched Scrubs. But
no, I've never seen that either. Okay.
I've heard that is one of the more realistic ones as well. So if you've watched Scrubs, comment. Comment below.
Like, comment, subscribe. So yeah, never watched Scrubs. Put it this way. I knew Grey's Anatomy wasn't accurate because I swear, I think your mom even asked a nurse one time and said, so, like, how accurate is Grey's Anatomy? They're like, not at all. Which, have you met a McDreamy ever?
Okay, so my first nursing job wasn't the NICU. It was on an orthopedic trauma floor.
Oh, that's right.
The ortho bros. They are exactly what you would dream of them. They are real life Grey's Anatomy. They are such beautiful, beautiful men. Most of them married, which was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, I don't find that in the NICU. It's mostly girls, and then there's 2 doctors, but they're like older.
Are they as like sunshiny as like Arizona Robinson from Grey's Anatomy? Is anyone rolling around on Heelys through the floor?
You know, maybe on the peds floor, like the pediatrics. In the NICU, I feel like there are some like sunshiny people, but for the most part, it's like an ICU, so it doesn't have that. Yeah. I try to bring the light though and try to be happy.
So what we discovered is she can't find sunshiny people because she is the sunshiny person.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Do you own a pair of Heelys?
I used to, and I am thinking maybe I should buy a pair.
Christmas time. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Heelys, if you want to sponsor this video and send Katie a pair of Heelys, pink would go great with her ensemble. Or butter yellow.
Oh, yellow is my favorite color. So butter yellow.
I had a pair of Heelys when I was in like the 3rd grade. I remember I got them. They were my prized possession. And then you went to try to learn how to use Heelys. Oh, and for people that don't know what Heelys are, they're literally the shoes that had the little tiny, like kind of like a skateboard wheel, but it was put in your shoes. So you would basically run, you would jump up onto your heel and you would just slide through wherever. And I remember when I was learning, I almost like wiped out and like cracked my head. My mom was like, those things are going to kill you. But they didn't because I'm still here.
That's right. Yeah, I can't skateboard. I can ride a bike, but that's about it for wheels. So yeah, I know my brother had Heelys, but I never had them.
The Millennial Brothers?
The Millennial Brothers. I might have had them, or I tried to steal theirs and wear them.
Valid.
But big shoes and wheels didn't really work out.
Okay, I'm going to out myself for a second. I'm a size 5 shoes. I can't steal people's shoes. My feet are so small. I'm like, I pray that people have my size when I go to shoes. I go to Target. Do you know how many people don't have size 5? A lot of people. And then if I try to shop in the kids departments, okay, I've bought kids shoes before. Do you know how much cheaper they are?
I know. That's what I was going to say. No shame. I wish I could do that.
I went to the kids department to buy a pair of Birkenstock. Those things go for like $150. I think I paid $80 or something. But I had to get like a size 13 in kids. It was like the biggest size they came. And I was like, because I tried to buy the adult version and my feet were too tiny. Even the smallest size, they were too tiny. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm going with the kid size. And then I ended up saving like $80-ish. So it was awesome.
That's nice. My favorite shoes are Birkenstocks. I have summer Birkenstocks and fall winter Birkenstocks. That's how I justify buying a new pair every year because they're so expensive. But I'm like, I wear these literally every day, all day.
Really? Even in the winter?
Yeah, in the winter I have clogs, the Boston clogs.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, because being in Connecticut, it snows and we have all kinds of nasty weather. But to stay on this shoe topic, I never realized how important a good pair of athletic shoes were. And my personal favorite shoe is Vans. Now, I just have to say one thing. Because of having worked in retail and because I was like 20 when I had first started working in retail, I didn't value my feet. I didn't care about my feet at all. And at 20, you don't care about a lot of things. And so I would just wear Vans. Vans are so flat, and the socks that you would wear, even if there was like cushion or comfort or anything. And then finally, after a year of being in retail, I realized how comfortable Uggs were, and I just would wear those all the time. I was like 25 by the time I invested in a good pair of athletic shoes, and I was like, wow, girl, you could have had comfortable feet for many years in retail and you didn't.
Yeah, my dad always says to me that you're supposed to change your sneakers every 6 months. I'm sorry, Dad, if you're watching this, but I don't do that. Shoes are so expensive.
They are.
Especially sneakers. My dad's like, buy 2 pairs and just every other time, like you go to work or whatever, just alternate them. I'm like, yeah, would you like to buy me a pair of shoes? Because they're like almost $200. But yes, because of nursing, they say like, ask nurses, they'll tell you what shoes are right. Same with water bottles, which is why I have a water bottle addiction.
Wait, hot take. What's the best water bottle?
Oh, a Walla.
Boom. Heard it here first. A Walla is the water bottle to have.
Yeah.
A Walla, feel free to sponsor this episode. I like any color except for pink. She will take pink.
Yeah, or yellow. But yeah, so it took me a couple years to find good sneakers. And now that I have, I'm like, okay, I do understand kind of what my dad was saying.
Right.
But, they're expensive.
Oh my God. It wasn't until like I started working out and I was like, I should probably buy a pair of like, because I honestly always looked at athletic shoes like I could wear Vans. I wore Vans all the time. I love my Vans so much. I must walk funny because I get holes in the top of my shoes. So I don't even know how it happens. But all the Vans that I wear, I have like 2 or 3 pairs of white Vans. I just have holes in the exact same spot. And it wasn't until I started like working out and I was like, you know what? Might as well invest in a pair of athletic shoes. And then when we went to London this past like winter, it was like February-ish. I was like, I should buy a really nice pair of walking shoes. Those are the best shoes I've ever owned. We walked all over London. Our first day there, we walked 12 miles or 15 miles. It was something like that.
Yeah.
I had like a cut on my foot on the top because I tied my shoes so tight, but everywhere else, perfect.
Yeah, and I wore Air Forces.
Oh, right.
Because I wanted to look cute. And I had blisters on my feet the whole trip. But I was like, worth it. Beauty must suffer is what my mom always said to me.
You did the Princess Diary. I popped a foot where it's like running in front of Big Ben. Pop foot.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. So back to nursing because we took such a rabbit hole off of that. But there's a lot of hot takes we had to talk about. Anyways, so, okay, you know how you will see, like, on TikTok, they have all the, like, days in your life, like, videos, and they even have them for, like, nursing stuff. If you were going to make a day in your life video, what would that look like for you? Like, for nursing, of course.
All right, so I have a longer commute, so it takes me a little bit to get into work. Then once I'm there, we, like, clock in. What's nice about being in the ICU, when I worked on the adult floor, I had, like, 6 patients. I work day shift and night shift, but now that I'm in the ICU, I get, like, 2 patients.
Ooh.
Which is so much nicer because I feel like I can, obviously it's the ICU, but you can really focus on those 2 patients. So I get my report from my 2, like either it's the same nurse or 2 different nurses. And then I go in and clean my rooms. And we keep our babies on 2 schedules. Either they're on an 8-11-2-5 schedule or a 9-12-3-6.
Okay.
Just to keep all of the cares it's very organized. You thrive as a type A person on it. I'm like a middle between type A and type B because like I'll get report and they'll be like,
yes,
I don't know anything. I'm like, that's okay. That's totally fine. And then there's other people that like I give report to and they're like, what was the exact time to the second they were born? And I'm like,
wow.
I don't know. So you're going to have to look that up. There's a mix of people, but yeah, so we like go in and clean the rooms, get the babies set up. And then I do like a couple care times. I like to eat lunch at like 3 p.m. if I'm working day shift.
Okay, so when does your day start?
Oh yeah, my day starts at 6. Well, I get to work and clock in by 6:45.
Okay, and you do, is it 12-hour days?
Yeah, it's 12.
Okay, so you do 12-hour days. Your shift starts at 7?
Like 6:45, 7.
Oh, sorry, 6:45. Yeah. Okay, so your day starts at 6:45. You don't eat lunch until 3 o'clock. Guys, if you don't know, I'm a foodie. You should know this. We've talked about cooking before. You don't eat lunch until 3 o'clock. That's like, is it not 8 hours?
Yeah, it's really bad. And
okay,
I've been trying to go earlier.
You know what? To each their own. No shame.
Here's the thing. So like I told you guys, like it's 8-11-2-5 or 9-12-3-6. I like to go after that 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. or if it's night shift, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. care time because then I only have one more care time and then I get to go home. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah,
so I'm like, okay, I take my break. I have one more care time. Then I'm free.
Yes.
It's not healthy.
Well, some people fast for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
So you're intermittent fasting.
That's true. Yeah. Sometimes I do snack and like a lot of times like parents, they'll bring like donuts and cookies and everything. Okay. So like I can't say that I don't eat anything.
What is the coolest thing a patient's done? Like, or a patient's parent or whatever?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of parents end up bringing like snacks and food, which is like super nice because like who doesn't love food?
Absolute free food.
Right. I think that the best gift that I've gotten was after a baby had gone home, the mom had asked for my address and she had sent me this little keychain of the baby's footprint and his name and date of birth. And I thought that was like the cute, it's like hanging up in my room.
That's so sweet.
I just thought it was like the sweetest like little memento. And one of my coworkers, we were both like the primary nurses and she got one as well and she keeps it on her badge.
I love it. Do parents ever come back with their babies like to show you like, look?
Yeah, a lot of the babies end up up needing like appointments afterwards.
Ooh, okay.
And so there was one baby that I took care of for 8 months that I was like her primary nurse, which primary nurse means that every time you're on the shift, you get that baby.
Ooh, okay.
Which is nice because you have the continuity of care for the baby and also for the parents as well. And she had an appointment. I ended up working day shift that day, and she got to come up to the lobby, and I got to see her and hold her.
So special.
And what I love about NICU nursing, one, like it kind of ages you because you're like,
Makes sense.
My like first primary is like 2 years old now. Right. It's so cool that you get to see them grow up too.
Right. This is where I always think it's so interesting about having friends in different careers, because I know the context for me having a bad day is not the same context of you having a bad day. And I was like, I had a bad day. And it's like, Christina, how bad was your day? I lost all my footage from a podcast. You'd be like, I lost a life. And I'm like, dark. But it's true.
Yeah.
And that's where it's one of those things where it's like, you see the TikToks of different people where I think I see a lot of nursing TikToks because of like following you, but there'll be videos where it's like almost like you need to decompress before you go into home. And then it's like nobody kind of really knows what your day looks like because unless they're a nurse.
Right. Yeah. And my poor mother, I live at home and sometimes I come in and she doesn't say anything to me. And I'm like, and you're not going to ask me about my day? And then there's other days that she'll be like, how's your day? And I'm like, why would you even talk to me right now? Like, I can't talk to you. Why would you ask me any questions? And then she was like, she jokingly, but I don't think she's joking. And she probably would say she was not joking. She's like, I'm scared of you. And I'm like, I just want to be asked about my day when I want to be asked about it. And you should know when I don't want to be asked about it.
We need to get you. Okay, so they have this little magnet for dishwashers where it says clean and dirty. You need to have a little bell that says talk to me, don't talk to me.
Yes. Yeah. I was actually just talking to a friend about like the differences in, like different jobs and different problems. And I feel like it's so relative because like this is my experience. And so like I know what a hard and stressful day is for me. But like I think of my brother who's in accounting, like he can have a horrible day. And to me, I'd be like, you just put numbers in all day. Like what's hard about that? But it's all like super relative to what you do with your life.
Well, it's true because it's even like having worked in like insurance. And it's funny because the company I worked for was a startup and then it became very corporate. And it was one of those instances where I realized like you can work from your phone. Like it's nonstop. And with being a head of a department, we had international offices. So I would wake up at, didn't matter what time, have a flooded inbox. So it felt like I could never escape it. Everything was fully remote. So there's no separation. There's no time to decompress. My decompressing was like, I'm walking down the stairs to eat dinner, and it's just one of those things. And if you're not having a problem on the US side, there's international problems. Did you realize how many currencies there are in the world? I didn't find out till I had to deal with it one day. And I was like, who knew American dollars? I mean, obviously American dollars, but there's Australian dollars too. So needless to say. But no, it's true. It's the context. And I think that's the cool thing about having like friends, family, they work in different industries and being able to realize like there's a lot that goes on to things. My favorite is I had a friend. I would tell her about my day. And I remember one time she was trying to set me up on a date and she was telling the guy and he goes, so like, what does Christina do? And she's like, I thought I told you. And he goes, no, can you tell me again? And she's like, I really don't know what Christina does. She does things with spreadsheets. And I'm like, accurate. People would ask me all the time. They're like, can you explain your job? And I'm like, I do so much of a lot of things because when you work in a startup, it's like a sinking ship where you're just like, plug the holes everywhere. One time, my cousin, Amy, if you're listening, one time she comes up to me and she goes, so like, is your job like Chandler Bing? I'm like, yes, it's like Chandler Bing. Nobody really knows what I do.
The transponster.
Right. Hey guys, I hope you've been enjoying this conversation with Katie because I know I have. Instead of cutting this conversation short, we are turning it into a two-parter. So you are going to want to make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube at Let's Unravel Pod. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, make sure you're pressing that follow button so you can stay up to date on all new episodes. Part 2 will be released next Thursday. And I want you to hold on to this hot take. Is cereal a soup? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and check out that poll on Spotify to cast your vote. You'll hear Katie and I's thoughts next Thursday and you're not going to want to miss it. If you want to catch up with Katie, you can find her on Instagram at @KatherineBauer_. I'll have a link in the show notes below. It was great hanging out with you today, and I'll catch you next Thursday for part 2. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Oh, wait, I got a surprise for you. Check out this trailer for next week's episode. Okay, really. Bye.
I had to meet with a guidance counselor after like career, and I was like, I want to be a physician's assistant. My guidance counselor was like, I don't think you could do it. I remember being like, okay, yeah, like I don't even think I could be anything in the medical field. And I like turned to look at the sign and it was all in French, and I was like, I'm just gonna walk. I think walking sounds like a better option. I picked up embroidery, or like a friend of ours would say fancy sewing. But like, what do you mean? Gumby has a better figure than you.